Finally, after months of experimenting, I have created the perfect guitar riff. Hello everyone, and welcome to our first ever ASMR session. So relaxing. So, you want to combine loud EDM drops with equally loud metal guitars like these gentlemen? If the answer to that is yes, then you're watching the right video. Today we're going to learn how to make metal step. This tutorial is going to be divided into a few separate parts, which are going to represent different elements of a metal step section we're going to make. Let's start with the first one. Now, obviously, the most important part of any metal/metal influenced song is guitars, so let's find one. Oh. Let's use a VST. After many months of experimenting and testing various guitar VSTs, 3 plugins stood out to me the most. Heavier 7 Strings by 3 Body Technology, Cabal 8 by Wavelet Audio, and the Odin 2 by Soul & Tones. Each of these plugins have their own strengths and weaknesses, so it's kinda hard to choose just one. For example, Heavier 7 Strings is pretty versatile and has its own built-in effects with a lot of presets, but those presets sound kinda bad, and the guitar itself sounds weird when you put it through a separate amp sim. Cabal 8 sounds good and modern, but only has 5 key switches to work with, which means you're going to have to program stuff like tremolo and bends manually. Odin 2 has a lot of key switches and is really easy to use, but it sounds a little thin and just generally worse than Cabal 8, in my opinion. After a lot of experimenting with these plugins and different processing chains, I decided to stick with Cabal 8, because it just sounds good and thick. Now, as you can see, there's a ton of post-processing on this thing, so let me briefly explain it. First, we have a multiband dynamics preset that Nasco made called Enhance, then a guitar amp simulator. There are a lot of different amp sims out there, but I like sims made by ToneForge. In this case, I'm using one called Band Bruce. After that, we have multiband saturation, head crusher with default settings, a little bit of amp, and a bunch of EQing, with a saturator at the end with soft clip on. After processing the guitar, I duplicated it, trimmed some more low frequencies, and moved all the notes to play an octave higher, creating a layer for a thicker mix. After that, I duplicated both guitars and manually doubled them. In metal, doubling is when you record 2 separate takes of your riff and hard pan them left and right. You might be thinking, but Lyron, why do it manually when Cabal 8 has built-in doubling option? Well, because for some reason, doing it this way sounds better, at least in my opinion. So do it. Open Cabal 8, go to options and disable one of the guitars. Do that for all Cabal instances and then hard pan those babies. After all of that, I grouped all 4 guitars and added some final touches. Also, this compressor acts as a subtle sidechaining tool, using the kick and the snare as the sidechain triggers. Makes the drums come through a little bit more. Now that we're done with the main guitars, we also need a bass guitar. And for that, I used a free guitar VST called ABPL2, made by Ample Sound. After you launch it, I recommend going into settings and toggling this Cycle X3 thing. Will make the guitar sound a little bit more realistic. Also, turn all of these sliders and all of these tuners down. For the processing, it's pretty much the same as the main guitars, except I used a different amp sim from ToneForge called Menace. The reason for that low cut, by the way, is we're going to replace that low end with a sub bass. And now it's time to write some riffs. Here's one I came up with. Writing riffs is not easy and you're going to struggle at first. A tip I can give to you that helped me is try recreating other riffs from other songs. For example, here's my recreation of the main riff from Metal Hell by Mick Gordon that I made a while ago. Also practice. Practice and you shall learn. This thing, by the way, is just 8 notes with reverb. There are several ways you can go about obtaining metal drums for your song. You can either use samples or VSTs/libraries like Easy Drummer, Mjolnir Drums or Superior Drummer. In my case, I prefer samples. You can find some good metal samples in these sample packs. They're up on Splice, so go check them out. For this song I used the Sallow & King live kick with some processing, a phase 1 live snare and phase 1 cymbals. Programming metal drums is pretty easy. You just make your kick follow the guitar rhythm, add some fills here and there, and that's it. Alright, we're done with the metal section. What's left is to add other sections like intro, build-ups, and of course, loud dubstep drops. But we're not gonna do that today, because that's a whole different topic. Thanks for watching, I hope you learned something, and yeah, subscribe for more videos.